morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Welcome back once again to the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian. We do hope you're all good and well, all you Hearts fans out there. We got quite a packed one for you this afternoon as we are recording. Obviously, the hot topic that'll probably be the same story for uh, quite a few weeks, a potential months as well, is the ongoing search for a brand new manager for the Gorgie outfit. Names have been being thrown left, right, and centre. Me and Alan will go through a couple of the names that have been thrown out there with over 100 inquiries, I believe that Alan told me that has been made for the Hearts job. So even though we're sitting bottom of the league, at least everybody wants to come and work for us. Obviously, we will have a wee bit of a look into the Ross County game at the weekend, where we managed to salvage a point at the death. Which, getting a point these days feels very much like a win. That's the sad state of affairs that Hearts are in at the moment. And we will take a look this week when we travel to Belarus to face our first European game in the Conference League against Dynamo Minsk, and we will have a short look at the Aberdeen game when we return to Premiership action. So as always, guys, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast via the YouTube or the Spotify page, please think about subscribing. All the links will be in the description. And if you want to check out any of our other socials as well, please feel free to do so. And we do hope you enjoyed the podcast, whatever time you're watching it. So Alan, hello, good afternoon. Hope you're all well as well, man. Obviously, as I said at the start, you sent me over a thing about there have been over 100 inquiries about the role, which I guess does say something in itself. Like, as we talked about last week, that the job is very much quite attractive in terms of what Scottish football can offer. Um, Obviously, I said that we would just browse a few of the names and see if there's anything that maybe pops out or sounds interesting. So, I know you sent me a list just the other day there. If you have the list on hand, is there anybody that kind of jumped out at you in terms of what would possibly make a good fit for the Heart job, or is there anybody that was a bit kind of left field, shall we say?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm currently kind of nursing a bit of a head cold and a dodgy shoulder at the moment, but we're getting there. It's always nice when Hearts kind of manage to do something on a weekend. It cheers you up a little bit, but we'll talk about County later. In terms of managers, there has been obviously a lot of noise over the last few days. Obviously, the fallout from Naismith losing his job. Um, More and more names seem to be surfacing, and as you said, 100 inquiries was something that they said on the BBC was 100 inquiries, and the way that they're going to sort of whittle it down is they're going to involve Graham Jones, who obviously doesn't start his new role until November. However, the SFA have, Andrew McKinley's been speaking to them, and they've kind of allowed him to take an active role with us, even just a few days a week here and there, just to sort of be involved, because obviously he's going to have to work with whoever the new manager is. So it helps if he's involved in picking him, even if the manager starts his job before him, which I think would probably be the preferred option. Um, so yeah, that's something. And then obviously they've said they're going to get a list of managers that have applied or whatever, and then they'll hand that over to the statistical analysis company that Andrew McKinley in his most recent update obviously couldn't name, but we all know it is Tony Bloom and his Star Lizard algorithms and all the rest of it. So, but obviously Andrew McKinley can't say that because the deal's not been done as yet. And then effectively they will run the numbers on the managers, and that'll rank them in terms of suitability, or probably I would imagine it's probably going to be done off things like win percentages and past experiences. There'll be different criterias, obviously. And then obviously they'll go into the interview process and take it from there. But however long that's going to take, it's going to take time, and we know that. But in terms of managers' specific names that have come up recently, the one that the media seem to have attached themselves to is Gareth Ainsworth, um, former Wickham and QPR manager. Um, it's a hard no from me to be honest. I read some of the stuff that he was saying in the media, and I've had a lot of conversations with people over the last 48 hours about some of the comments that he made, which was effectively, he said something along the lines of, for Hearts, winning the league is finishing third, and I want to get them there regularly, not just once in a decade, or words to that effect. And, while I kind of understand where he's coming from with that comment, I don't agree with it. I think it's obviously third place is the aim every year because it has to be. But I don't want my manager coming in and saying, yeah, third place for us is like winning the league. You want to say, yeah, third place is great, but we want to try and aim higher than that. As unrealistic as that could be, you have to have a bit of ambition. And I don't think just saying third place is the ambition is kind of good enough. Plus, I think, and I've said this to a few people, I think Gareth Ainsworth for me is somebody that the media have just kind of attached themselves to because there's not really been any sort of leaks and there's not really been any kind of news about any other names. He's been kind of the one that's publicly come out and said, "Yeah, I'll throw my hat in the ring," which is fine. He's currently out of work, so I don't blame him for putting his name out there. But at the same time, I just feel, again, like I said about the Scottish managers that were on the list that we spoke about last week, I think Gareth Ainsworth would be an incredibly underwhelming appointment. But there have been a few, and it's very, very interesting. I won't ramble on about it, but again, I was talking to people over the last few days about it, and the club find themselves in quite a difficult position because you have to think short term, because obviously we're in a bit of trouble. We need to think short term about how we get out of that trouble. But they also will want to look long term as well and think, right, we need that new, like we spoke about it before, the identity crisis and all the rest of it. They'll be looking longer term and going, right, we need a manager that's going to be here for say 3-4 years and build that identity and build that, through multiple transfer windows. So, and I think you'd mentioned it last week. We were talking about whether it was gambling or picking a safe option in terms of what do you do. And I came away from last week's episode and kind of thought about it. I can understand gambling because obviously that's what clubs do. And like I said before, every managerial appointment is a gamble because they are. But it's safer to go with a safer option for the short term, perhaps. But do we have the time to do that? It's a really, really tricky one. But yeah, in terms of the names, as I say, that have come up, Gareth Ainsworth is somebody that I would absolutely steer well clear of. There's been lots of Scandinavian-based player managers linked as well, like coaches linked from that side of the world due to, I think, the schedule of their league season. I think the majority of their leagues finish in sort of October, November time, and then have obviously their winter break because the weather conditions and stuff don't allow for winter football. So that would kind of marry up with when we could potentially get a manager in. I think St Johnstone are sort of looking in the same market as well with that in mind. Not that I'm saying we should be competing for managers with St Johnstone. I think the levels in terms of salaries and budgets and stuff would put us above them. But again, we'll wait and see, and time will tell in that. But there have been a few managers linked that, as I say, some might have legs, some might not, in terms of whether they're actually credible or not. I don't think Gareth Ainsworth is a credible link, to be quite honest. I think he's a manager that's looking for work. The same way with Alex Neil, he's another one. I think he's been out of work for the last 18 months or so. So these are the sort of managers that I wouldn't want. I mean, you entertain them because they've got a bit of experience, but at the same time, I think they would be more of a short term option, and I don't know whether we can afford to do that. I think whether we like it or not, Liam Fox is the short term option, and that kind of rules that out for me. But no, in terms of Scandinavian managers that I mentioned, there's a few, and the one that I think has probably the most traction is, again, I'm going to butcher these pronunciations because I don't know what I'm saying. It's Arnar Gunnlaugsson. He's an Icelandic 51-year-old who is currently managing in the Icelandic top flight with Vikingur, their joint top. His favoured formation is 4-4-2. Bit of old school vibes there.
Yeah, that's a good like sort of thing to go off
Yeah.
like the fact that he plays 4-4-2, get him in, no?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I think as well his experience as well is something that kind of stands out for me. There are another couple of managers that are obviously up there as well. Graham Arnold, the former manager of the Socceroos, the Australian national team, he was linked with the Hibs job previously as well, but I don't think the timing's lined up for him. And obviously, he's been the Socceroos manager for a long, long time, and he recently stepped back from that. So there might be scope for that. And obviously, we've got some Aussies in our team, so that could be an avenue. I don't know whether I would like that or not. I didn't really do too much on him, to be honest, because I don't really give it too much credibility. But again, if the club are looking budget wise and financially wise, there's no payout there because he's a free agent. So there is a world where I could see that happening. Um, Another couple of names that were thrown to me. Kim Hellberg, the current Hammarby manager, he took over from Cifuentes, who was obviously linked with the Hearts job prior to Stephen Naismith getting the job. When he left and went to QPR, this Kim Hellberg took his job at Hammarby and has done relatively well there as well. 36 years old though, so again, a little bit of a lack of experience outside of that kind of bubble of Scandinavian football. But again, that might be something that we kind of need because we spoke about it last week in terms of needing a bit of an identity, needing a bit of philosophy brought in, and maybe bringing in somebody from outside that doesn't have that Scottish football tie-in is maybe not a bad thing. So those were the ones that were sort of mentioned, and one that I think deserves a little bit of a mention is another guy called Erlich Hornland. I'm again going to butcher these. Norwegian, currently managing Brann, who are second top. They are second top in the top flight, behind Bodo Glimt, who are a regular European competitor for Norway. So yeah, there's a few interesting names in there, and I won't go through every single manager and every single style of play because I'll be here all day, and it's an entirely different episode for that. And obviously, if one of those managers does become successful and his numbers get crunched through the algorithm and he proves to be the man that we should go for, then we'll talk about him a bit more. But like I say, 100 applicants, it's a very attractive job, and we'll see what happens. But I do the main sort of not concern, but the main thing that worries me a little bit is that short term or long term objectives. What do you go for? We are in a bit of trouble, but is it a simple case of we've got a decent group of players? They just need a bit of confidence, and then they can start to carry that, and you kind of feed off that in the short term. Or do you think, well, we bring a new manager in now that's going to be here long term, and we write off this season, even if we finish mid table, even if we finish bottom of the top six or top of the bottom six, do you write off this season and go let the new manager come in and put his philosophy in to build longer term? So it is interesting, and I said it last week that we're not too big a club to get relegated, and we are in that situation at the moment because we're bottom of the league and we deserve to be there, sadly. But I think whoever the new manager is that comes in, they're going to have a hell of a job on their hands, whatever the objectives are for them that are set out by the board. Anyway, I feel like I've gone on quite a bit there, so I'll give you it back.
No, mate. I would like thank you very much for the insights. I think just from my point of view, it would be interesting to kind of go for a manager with an unknown quantity, if that makes sense. Like, someone that's a little less known, but has the credentials to back that up. But obviously, with this new structure we're going to have with the unknown investment group that we're going to go with soon. I think to identify a manager that can, you know, um, that can actually bring something without having that preconceived judgment or conception of who they actually are, or not like actually knowing who they are before they come. I think would be, a good thing, because you're always going to have your preconceived sort of thoughts, if you're going to go for somebody like an Alex Neil or a Derek McInnes, for example, you know kind of what to expect. And, as you were saying about the ex QPR manager, you know, if that's what they want to aim for, is just aim for third every single season. Obviously, that's the absolute the minimum for us. But you know, going down the next 5 years, I want to see us actually challenging the old firm,
Yeah,
or at least getting close to it. So,
yeah,
with a kind of ambition under his belt, yeah, is a very strong no from me. But I think you're right. I don't know. I don't know whether to take the route of, do we get somebody for the short term just to see us through the season, or can we pull off something miraculous for throughout the next sort of 6 or 7 months? Because you know as where we sit right now, and for the long term, if we do make, I'd say, if we achieve even fifth, I think that'll be a miraculous turnaround. For as much as it wouldn't mean anything, I think with the start that we've had, and obviously to take into account the European football as well, it's going to be quite ass. So, but I mean, to be honest, I don't want to actually think about where we're going to finish him at the end of the season. So I think we can move swiftly on to the county game at the weekend. There was a lot of insights and interviews leading up to the game. I thought Liam Fox in his first kind of pre-match interview, I thought he actually came across quite well. I thought he was very honest in terms of how he sees things, how he wants to play, what the current situation is right now with the club. I also thought, for as much as I know it was a training session as well, I know you've probably seen it as well. Like we spoke about it last week as well, with Lee Wallace in there, like an ex-player, like as well as Liam Fox as well. But with Wallace, being a part of that squad at one point, knowing what the expectations are, how quickly the fans can get on top of you, but also how quickly the fans can get behind you if you give them something to cheer about. I thought that was lovely. And to be honest, even in the manner that we got the point, you know, like you have to start somewhere. I don't think it was a terrible result in the way that a lot of Hearts fans think it was. I mean, considering how we've been playing thus far, I thought a point was a good result, even if we had to leave it right at the death at the weekend. But just in terms of how we started, Alan, and how we started the first half, and who we actually played. What were your thoughts? Because I didn't. Again, I thought we started okay. I thought we had a bit of a rhythm, and in the start up to the game, but I don't know what, and we probably won't, but I don't know just where the confidence just seems to dip and just be non-existent once we can take that first goal. It just seems like once that's done, like heads go down, like playing gets sloppy, you know, chances aren't being taken, like etc. etc. So in terms of the first half as a whole, what do you think of it?
Well, I think, I mean, I'll start with the lineup. You kind of mentioned it briefly there. I think Liam Fox said prior to the game that he wasn't coming in to try and reinvent the wheel. I think that was his phrasing, and I think he's right, because I don't really think he needs to do that. I don't think that's his job to do that. He doesn't need to rip up the tactics board and start all over again. I think that's for the new manager, whoever that may be, that comes in to do that. But Liam Fox has purely been given the job to try and stabilise things and get results. And again, I did him a disservice last week because I said he's done very well to come into Hearts having had no connection to it. I must have had short-term memory loss because Liam Fox played for Hearts and is also a Hearts fan. So again, I was quickly fact-checked after last episode, so I'll hold my hands up and apologise for that one. I need to do better research apparently. But yeah, in terms of his first lineup, I think there was a couple of things that kind of stuck out for me. Obviously, Gerald Taylor is out for the considerable future, the foreseeable future, with a suspected ACL injury. So that opens up the right back conversation yet again. An area that when the window closed, we had three of. Now we have one. And even then, we probably don't really have one. I wanted to get Natty's number and get him back across the pond, to be honest, but that's just me. Um, but we saw a start for young Adam Forrester, 19 years of age, the B team captain, obviously. So Liam Fox will know him well and know that he's probably capable of stepping in and doing a job, which I think he did. I don't think he was particularly spectacular, but for a young 19-year-old lad making his debut in a, let's be honest, high pressure game, because it was, I thought he carried himself relatively well. So that was a positive thing to see. In terms of other squads things that were lineup selection things that jumped out at me, I think Stephen Kingsley playing at left back was something that surprised me a little bit. I thought Penrice was a bit unlucky. I think Penrice has probably been one of our bright lights so far this season. So to see him drop to the bench was a bit of a surprise, especially because as much as I love Stephen Kingsley, I don't know if he has the pace to play that left back role anymore. As much as I love him and he can do a job there, I don't think he is that left back anymore. I think he's much more of a left-sided centre back. But again, Kingsley had a decent game at left back, but I just felt a bit hard done by for Penrice, as well as Boateng, Malachi Boateng, not included in the squad at all. No injury there either, apparently. So I kind of looked at the squad selection and thought maybe there's some elements of it that they're resting players for midweek, or maybe they're a slight rotation, but obviously still a strong squad. But the main thing for me and the main takeaway was not that the GOAT Forestinho was returned to the starting 11, but that not a single one of our summer recruits was in the starting 11. So you can look at that and say, is that a dig at the summer recruitment? Does Liam Fox think they're good enough? All of these things are kind of redundant because he's only been in the job and training with them for a week. So, he's making first impressions and decisions based off of that. And I didn't disagree with the lineup, to be honest. I felt there would be some rotation and some freshness brought in. Kenny Vargas continues to take on the Josh Ginnelly most frustrating player at Hearts tag for me. I don't know what Vargas thinks he is. I don't think he's a winger, but I don't think he's a central striker either. I really don't know. The one thing I will say about Adam Forrester, he didn't get a lot of help from Vargas on that side of the pitch, because Vargas just kept cutting inside and kind of leaving him to do his own jobs, which is okay when you're a seasoned professional. But when you're a 19-year-old making your debut, you maybe do need somebody just to put an arm around you and help you a little bit. Not that he was isolated or anything, but you could tell that he was certainly the player in that back four that County would have targeted, obviously due to inexperience. But no, I've kind of rambled about the lineup. In terms of the first half, I was actually quite encouraged, which is a strange thing to say because we went in 1-0 down at half time. But we had a lot of good chances. We certainly created more chances in that first half than we have done in a lot of first halves so far this season. I think, we had right off the start of the game, we had the Cammy Devlin one that he should score. Shanklin makes something out of nothing, plays the ball back across, or I can't remember if he takes the shot, the goalkeeper parries it, and it goes to Cammy Devlin, and he's just got to lift it into the roof of the net, and it's a goal, but it gets cleared off the line. We had Shankland having another header that was from a Stephen Kingsley cross. So we were creating chances, and Shankland was in the place to take them and in the place to put them away, which was something that, again, we haven't seen in recent weeks. I think, I mentioned it last week. I think if I was Liam Fox, the first thing I'd be saying to Lauren Shankland is, you're the central striker. Stop ending up in defensive midfield. Stop wandering about the pitch. Put yourself in the 6 yard box, because that's where you'll score goals from. So I think there were encouraging signs in the first half, but then the sucker punch comes from the Ross County goal, um, which was scored in the most typical fashion of an away team coming to Tynecastle this season. Sit in, low block, defend, win the ball back, counter attack, take a chance and score a goal. I thought Benny was outstanding for the whole game. I thought he was streets ahead of everybody else on that pitch, and it shows just how big a player he is for us. I think he got back incredibly well. He tracked the county player brilliantly. He got back, made a tackle. It was just unfortunate that his tackle led the ball into the path of the boy Hale, and he just wraps his foot round it, bends it round Craig Gordon into the back of the net. So, as annoying as it was, it's one of those goals that you kind of watch and you go, yeah, do you know what? Fair play. That was actually a very well taken shot. As annoying as it was for us to give it away, it was a quality finish from the kid, and fair play to them. But I do feel like it was against the run of play a little bit, which again is something that in recent times I haven't really been able to say, because I feel like we were the better team at that point, and then they just happened to get a chance and put it away. But yeah, I mean, look, we played a lot worse than that this season, and we played a lot better than that previously.
Mm.
But I felt like there were encouraging signs, and that was pleasing, even though going in at halftime 1-0 down.
I mean, like, even then though, like while we got in to the second half as well, like you could feel the tension there, and you know, it seems to me that this could run quite a bit into the season as well. Like it almost felt like, I mean, I don't want to say it too early, but there were words mentioned that, I mean, if this kind of carries on any longer throughout into October, like there could be the real fact that we could be in a relegation battle. Now, I would never want to say that, as early of the season as we're at just now, but there's only so many times that we can say that there's still, like, we had plenty of games left to play, you know. So in that regard as well, like I understand that, like what you were saying about Liam Fox in terms of not wanting to totally rip up the tactics board in that sense, but I think something does have to change about, and I do believe that one of them should be to get Jan Danda starting in that fucking team. Like I do not know what Naismith, or in this case now what Fox, has got against Danda starting. Who knows? Maybe they know something that we don't, where like he can only play a certain like amount of the time, and i.e. Like a Barry Mackay, who again I thought wasn't that great when he came on. But you know, if that is the case, like like I'm just kind of brainstorming here, but if that is the case, then show us, because he's not had the opportunity, and especially if I remember correctly, he literally just won player of the year for the can't even remember which award it actually was. So
Yeah, I saw that right enough. I did see that. I can't remember the award what it
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
myself, but
But either
I know
way,
I remember the thing you said.
ah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But either way, though, that's got to show something. That the boy's got the quality, and we know he's got quality. So even if like let us see it for ourselves to see if he's like capable of starting in the first team. So again, I thought that was a bit disappointing. But anyhow, I mean, regarding the second half, I mean, again, it was a bit dreary as well. I mean, again, we had a few chances, like with Shanklin hitting the crossbar, um, which was a great shot, by the way. But um, obviously, we had a few chances as well. I can't remember if it was Forrest that had a decent chance as well. I can't particularly remember because I switched off. Well, my mind switched off during the second half. But as we said at the start, with the goal, that we did eventually score, I mean, I thought it was quite right for the Gordon to come up because we had nothing else to lose, so. And with the first sight of watching it, I thought it was actually Craig Gordon that actually scored with a header, um, but it was also nice to see Shanklin finally getting on the score sheet this season as well. I know it's been probably a frustrating start for him personally, as well, but um, just after the game, Alan, as I said at the start, I thought it was, we have to start somewhere. So I thought it was a good point. But what did you take out of the game, after the final whistle blew?
Yeah, I think I'm probably echo what you say, to be honest. I don't think we were particularly brilliant, but again, we had a lot of chances, like I say, the first half, and then we had some in the second half as well. And sometimes to end these sorts of runs, you need a bit of luck. You need a bit of something to go for you. And I think Shanklin said after the game he did an interview with Sky and he was talking about it and he said, confidence is something that, can grow from the smallest of thing, and he says I had a lot of chances in the game, but probably the hardest one to take was the one that I scored. There were easier ones that he missed. Obviously, you mentioned it, the one he hit the crossbar, and he had a couple. You said you didn't think Barry Mackay was particularly great. I actually thought he was all right, by Barry Mackay standards. I don't think he was brilliant, but I think it was certainly a bit more effective than Vargas was on the opposite side, which obviously Barry came on for Vargas and changed it up a bit. I thought Blair Spittle looked good when he came on, which is nice to see. Players being played where they actually should be is a nice thing. But I'm with you on the Danda shout. I think there has to be more to that. I think on top of that, Musa is a total enigma, that I just have no idea why we've not seen more of him yet. Maybe it's a settling in period thing. Maybe he's struggling off the pitch. No idea. But he doesn't seem to be. He posts stuff on his social medias during the week talking about believing in himself and wanting to show people what he's got. And that could just be lip service. That could just be him putting something out there, going, "Yeah, I'm fine." When in reality, maybe he's not fine. But yeah, that's the one thing for me that I'm like, I felt like Musa should have got a run out. To be honest, but especially considering he's not registered for the European squad, so we won't see him in midweek anyway. Maybe we save him for Pataudry. I don't know, but yeah, I felt like the second half was a bit of a non-event. To be honest, I felt there was that tension and that nervousness again, but I also feel like, and again, I wasn't there live to watch the game, so maybe people that were can tell me, but it didn't feel like the same nervous energy that we've seen when we've been going 1-0 down in games before. Certainly from my observation of it, watching it again, there was a lot of the players trying things, and you could see they were trying to string passes together. It just wasn't quite coming off. But like that goal right at the end, when it went in, I didn't celebrate it. It was relief more than anything else. Had it been coming, maybe, but again, a fully confident Hearts side win that game 3-4-0 without question with the chances we created. But sometimes, as I say, confidence is something that you need. And Liam Fox made the perfect point after the game where he said, confidence isn't something that you can just flick a switch and just get it back. It's not how it works. You have to work at it, you have to build it. And if, coming back from being behind and to get a goal right at the end, if that gives them some sort of belief, some sort of momentum, then that's a positive. I said it last week about, sometimes you just need something to go for you, and maybe that's what that was. But yeah, as I say, I didn't celebrate the last minute leveler. I would have if it was Craig Gordon that scored it, but it was, as I say, more relief than happiness at that point.
And so as we look to this week, to like again without being so dramatic about it, two big games ahead as we start our European campaign against Dynamo Minsk. Uh, you sent me a few details, Alan. Currently top of the Belarusian league. Yeah, that kind of says it all. So we'll kiss that game goodbye. Yeah, I mean, again, going into the Conference League, again, I think it's probably just because of the start we've had. I'm kind of treating it, the Conference League, as a bit of a novelty. I don't, just the way that we've been playing already, as you said earlier, it's going to take a bit of time to kind of pick up that confidence as well. And then to translate that into playing, I think it's going to take a while. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm overly confident, but I guess the guaranteed the prize money at the end won't be a huge disaster. But with that in mind as well, we face Aberdeen at the weekend as well. They look a very transformed side as well to how they were last season. So again, in terms of confidence, um, goes, it's going to be a long season. I think, obviously, we tend to start the podcast again, and then by the time we feel as if we've only done a few episodes, it's the end of the season again. But um, this feels like it's going to be a draggy one, in my opinion. So, just for the two games, Alan, where's your head at?
Yeah, I think the Minsk game is going to be interesting. I think going to, obviously we're playing the game in Azerbaijan due to Belarus being in the sort of midst of the war torn territory, so unable to play their games there. Um, I think you're right. I think it is the novelty factor. I think it is. It's obviously it's a reward for last season, but do these players deserve that reward at the moment? There's that side of things. Obviously, they did it for last year and it was brilliant, but you look at them now and you go, well, could be our last European campaign for quite some time if that's if things are going to go the way they're going to go. But um, I'm not going to sit here to say I'm confident, but I think the players might treat it as a bit of a novelty as well, and that might help. Um, it's a bit of a change of scenery, a bit of a change of competition. It's nice to play a team you haven't played before, because you're not going into it thinking, oh God, right, we have to do this, we have to do that. We know how they're going to play, etc. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. What you say is right. They're top of their domestic league at the moment, and they're the current holders of the tour of the title as well. So it's not a huge surprise to see them top of the league still. But I do think they're gettable. I think I looked at their European run so far because they entered in the Champions League knockout phase because obviously due to being league champions they were in that competition, and they lost. They lost in that due to a defeat against Ludogorets, and then they dropped into the Europa League qualification. They beat Lincoln Red Imps of Gibraltar. They beat them just 3-2 on aggregate, though, so another tight one there. Then they dropped down into the Conference League due to losing 2-0 on aggregate to Anderlecht. So, they're certainly vulnerable. They're maybe gettable, but I think I'd feel a lot more confident if we were in much better form than we currently are, obviously. But, like we said after the county game, confidence has to come from somewhere. And the element of confidence you take from the county game is the players never gave up. And Liam Fox said after the game, they hung in and they got the goal at the end. It's not worth celebrating it, but it's a good thing to get out of that. to take a point from that game. So does that, build a bit of confidence? Probably. I'm sure Lauren Shankland will be sleeping a lot better now, knowing he's at least broken his duck and got one goal. Hopefully that can kind of kickstart him and make him remember where the goal is. But time will tell. Then going to Aberdeen after that, that'll be tricky. The travelling. I believe they're just not coming back to Edinburgh. I believe when they come back from Azerbaijan, they're just going straight to Aberdeen after that, just to cut off any unnecessary travel time, which is maybe a good thing. Um, but we'll see. I'm really, really interested in the Aberdeen game because they've had a good start to the season. They certainly have. Their new managers has done fantastically well, and they all just seem to be lined up in the right direction, which is brilliant to see for them. And if I was an Aberdeen fan, I'd be delighted about that. But I wonder, and again, I've not watched Aberdeen too closely this season, but I do wonder going to Pittodrie, it might be quite a good game for us. A lot of teams that we've played this season so far have sat in and let us have possession and let us try and break through them. I don't know whether Aberdeen on home turf will do that, so that could help us a bit. You never know. Maybe I'm grasping for positives in a world where there's not many of them, but yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how Aberdeen set up. And as I say, I haven't really watched too much of them this year, but the results speak for themselves, obviously. So it will be a tough game, and it's one of those fixtures. We always kind of struggle at Pittodrie, so time will tell. Time will tell. But there's certainly two intriguing games, and the Ross County game has to be the jump off point. The Ross County game has to be the right. Maybe it wasn't 3 points. Maybe we should have got 3 points on another day. We would have got 3 points, but we didn't. One thing that I didn't mention when we were talking about the game itself was the referee. I thought he was absolutely horrendous. Just the latest in the line of horrific referees that seem to be coming through at the moment. But I'll leave that there. But yeah, you've got to take some confidence. You've got to take some belief out of that game into these next two. And I think a European game is a good place to start because, like I say, it is an unknown quantity going into that competition and going, right, this is a chance. This is a clean slate in as much as it's the start of this tournament. We're not going to be out of the tournament if we lose against Minsk. But, it would be fantastic to start off with a positive result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if we come out with 2 points from the two games, I mean, I know that's quite a low expectation, but if we do end up coming out with that, I don't think it'll be a bad result throughout the week. But as you said, only time will tell. And for the people that are making the cold trip to the Belarus, good luck to you. That's all I can really say on that. But yeah, I think we'll wrap this up here for this week's podcast. So once again, guys, thank you very much for watching. It is always greatly appreciated. And as we said at the start, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube or the Spotify, please think about subscribing and check out all of our socials as well. That'll be in the description. So from myself and Alan, for the people that are making the flight to the Belarus and to Aberdeen, hell of a travel, but we do hope you have a good one, and we will see you next time. You all take care. Bye for now.